All right, welcome everybody back to the PHLY Sixers post-game show. Devon is not with us tonight. He is on a secret covert mission, recruiting trip right now. So we brought Rich Hofmann in to fill in his place. How you doing, Rich?
Devon is helping out the cause, Derek, but he's not helping out the Sixers win tonight.
No, that was. I know you broke your streak here with your last appearance. That was a fun one. This one is a little lower on the fun scale.
I still think we have a decent amount of stuff to talk about, and it's not just the game. Now, is it very positive? No. but I do think there is actual tangible stuff to get to here tonight.
So I guess we'll start off with the game. I don't know how long we're going to talk about the game because, quite frankly, that was an abomination. That was bad right from the jump.
Not Turk.
Sure. It only got worse there in the third quarter as Cam Thomas went off. But that was, you come in, you're down Joel Embiid, obviously. And again, we'll get to that in a bit. You're down Tobias Harris, who is sick again. And it's sick, not like, is he being traded sick? Like, no, it's a proper sickness. You have...
It's a proper illness.
Proper. D'Anthony Melton, also out. Nick Batum, out. Like, there's just, like, you're down 4 starters. And all of a sudden, it's great when Tyrese Maxey does the thing where he runs really fast and shoots a lot of threes and it works. But when that didn't, when that wasn't working there to start the first quarter, all of a sudden you went like 5 possessions in a row with Kelly Oubre ISO ball. That's not going to win all that many games. And then you top it off with a terrible defensive performance. Where would you sort of like to start?
Well, I'm going to start with a couple moments that made me laugh.
Okay.
Because the game was so bad. Because you were at the game. I watched the whole thing on TV from here. And there were 2 moments on the broadcast that stood out to me that made me crack up. It was Kate and Allah trying to sell the game, when it was unsellable. At one point, midway through the second quarter, Derek, Kate said, the Sixers got to be careful. Don't want to let this one get away from them in the first half. They were down 23 points with like 6 minutes left in the first half. The game was away from them, Kate. And then in the, I think it was a couple minutes into the fourth quarter, KJ Martin goes down Broadway and makes a dunk to, I believe, again, cut the lead to 23. And Kate and Allah both said, here we go. Here we go.
I also appreciated Pat Bev getting thrown out. Got a text, complained right away, and it very much looked like I don't want to be here. Please do something about this. So I appreciate that. That made me laugh a little bit. Turk had some minutes. That's always good. I feel like on a day where we're talking about Joel Embiid and a displaced flap. I'm sorry, not misplaced. It's not like it's missing and out in somebody else's knee. It's a displaced flap. Talking too much about Turk is a little bit, a little off, but it was nice to see him play. Frankly, maybe should have played in the first half. Could have used one more ball handler, and at the very least, he can dribble. But it's hard to pick too many good things.
The flap is, I don't want to get too into Joel commentary just yet, but did you know your flap is in the correct place? Or that you have a flap in your knee? I did not
know I had a flap in my knee, no.
Yeah.
It really is like, and it's funny because like Kyle, first of all, we're not getting into the Joel stuff yet, but go check out Kyle's thing. He wrote allphly.com. He talked to an orthopedic specialist. And if you've been covering this team for as long as Kyle and I have, you have a Rolodex of orthopedic specialists. Kyle and I both sent out the bat signals, see who got to it first. Kyle's responded quicker, but like I've got a knee guy, I've got a foot guy. Like there's just different.
I said this in the newsletter the other day. The people would call me first. They would see that a Sixer, and it wasn't always Joel, sometimes it was Ben, sometimes it was other people. The Sixers got injured so many times, and as Kyle said, you also need a medical degree to cover this team instead of just like an understanding of basketball and some contacts in the organization. No, you actually need a medical degree as well. But they actually call you first. And if that is not the most Sixers thing ever, where these people say, hey, I know a story's coming. Would you like to talk to somebody from Cedars-Sinai or Johns Hopkins or whatever? Yeah. Like multiple people would call me, man.
It's wild. And like we knew, like, you're always going to have injuries. But my gosh, not only do you have a lot of lower body injuries with the team, but you have unique ones. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
Let's start with the game. Right?
Yeah. That's what we were trying to do, and we got off track.
Well, hey, look, getting off track tonight is not a bad thing because this track is a little sad. It's a sad track.
Yes, it is.
But to get back on the sad track, Derek, my takeaway is that the Sixers, and I know this is controversial, they sucked on both offense and defense. And I think my level of tolerance, like I think the first thing we should say is that when you don't have 4 of your 5 starters, that's going to be tough to win.
It is.
Especially the guy who's the MVP. Like that's not easy. But they are going to be without Joel regardless of what course they decide to take for at least a little bit here. Like probably over a month, I would guess. Yeah. But I don't know exactly.
And again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But they're going to be out. They're going to be without him for a little bit of time. So they need to figure out like a better way to play because I think part of it is the roster construction. And as we dive into the offense, I guess I could deal with the bad offense a little bit more.
Yes.
Because the roster is what it is.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. The defensive effort definitely let you down in a big way.
Okay. Let's start with the offense though. I can understand it more from a Nick Nurse standpoint, but that doesn't make it any less ugly to watch. No. I mean, how many of those that pitchback play that Joel and Tyrese always run at the top, whether it's Joel pitching to Tyrese pitching to Joel, how many of those to Kelly Oubre can you watch? With Kelly Oubre.
Well, because once Kelly gets it, there's only one thing that's going to happen. It's a drive into traffic. He's going to take it up with his left hand, and if he gets fouled, great. Otherwise, he's going to miss it, and there's never going to be a pass. There were a couple times where he went up, and if he had a right hand at all to speak of, he had a clear shot at the rim. He didn't, so he got it blocked. There was a turnover. He had to kick it out. It is very predictable when Kelly Oubre drives, which is why you want him to be like a play finisher, not an initiator. Like if he's getting a cut or maybe attacking a closeout where somebody went out wildly on him or something like that, great. But if you're, like you said, if you're flipping it to him beyond a 3-point line, bad stuff tends to happen. Now, look, he had 8 first quarter free throws, I think. I think it was 0 for 6 from the field as well during that time, but he had 8 free throws to at least keep it respectable. But no, you don't want to be relying on that every trip down the floor.
Kyle had a point in his post-game observations, but I'm guessing
you had time to read that before preparing for the show.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
We took 10 minutes. I'm a speed reader. You know, I can get it done quickly. I'm actually not a speed reader, but he at one point, he had the 8 or 10 free throws. He was 1 of 11 from the floor. He was just driving into like Nets defenders and throwing up complete hot garbage. And it's tough to watch because it's not just Kelly either. It's Pat Bev a lot of the time. And look, I love like Pat Bev's craft has been one of the cool things to watch this year. Like I didn't know he had like this much skill left in his bag. Like when he reverse pivots and fakes and kind of does like the sham god and like leaves the ball out. Sure. He's got a lot of different cool tricks, but you can't rely on that for more than like one game. And he needs to be like hot from the floor as well. So it's tough, man. They don't shoot any threes either. And I know this is something you guys have talked.
They had Tyrese made their first 3 of the night and it was like 5 minutes left in the second quarter. They went like 18, 19 minutes of play without making a 3-pointer in the year 2024. You can't do that. This is not 1995 anymore.
I wonder like how Daryl Morey feels watching this too. Like the guy who basically changed the NBA and turned it into this pace and space offense. Like the other team gets up 53s tonight and his team plays like the Doug Collins Sixers or the 90s Knicks for, until Turk comes in at the end and kind of puts lipstick on a pig. But God, it's really brutal to watch. There's no passing. There's really no creativity too. Like a lot of the things we saw earlier in the year with Nick Nurse and getting Tyrese off the ball, getting him to run dribble handoffs and stuff with Joel. I know they're limited, but you would like to see a little bit more.
The DHOs with Mo Bamba do not work quite as well.
They don't work quite as well. Yeah. That's fair. I will say one thing with the offense, though, where I will criticize Nick Nurse. There was a very clear strategy Brooklyn was employing tonight. Whenever Tyrese ran a pick and roll, and it was like, 3 to 5 was defending it, he got trapped every time.
Yep.
Can you not like figure out an offense where you get the ball to Paul Reed and you spray out the shooters? And you're still going to lose the game, by the way.
Yep.
But at least you're getting a 3-point shot. If the other team is putting 2 on the ball, you have to get 3s up against that. You just do. Like that's the way the NBA works. That is what they are giving up to get the ball out of Tyrese's hands. And look, Tyrese, I think, could have handled those traps a little bit better, but
yeah. And I think handling traps was one of Tyrese's weaknesses, in part because he's short. But when his outlets are so, like, if you're in a 3-on-2 or a 4-on-3, and you've got Daniel House, Kelly Oubre,
it's true,
Paul Reed, which one of those do you trust to make a driving kick?
I like Paul Reed could do it when Harden was with him.
Yeah.
I get it.
But look, most of the time there, he wasn't like catching the ball out of as a release valve. He was more rolling to the rim already. His momentum was taking him that way.
That's true.
I feel like the decision making, like the short roll Paul, has its limitations.
It looks like it hasn't even been explored, though.
No,
it hasn't even been drilled. Like
good.
all that practice time, it did not seem like they were ready for that strategy. And by the way, like when you're down 4 starters, of course the Nets are going to trap him. Okay, but look, I get it. When you are down 5 starter or 4 out of 5 starters, it's going to be rough. But like, look, they need Melton back. It's crazy how much they need DeAnthony Melton back.
Yeah,
to just take threes.
Yep,
they just need somebody who can dribble a little bit and take threes. And yeah, are DeAnthony's threes the highest quality shots? Not always, right? Like he can kind of take them out of the flow of the offense sometimes. When he gets back from his back issue here, just fire away, dude.
No, I mean compared to everyone else they have, he's a high volume 3-point sniper. Yeah. No, they need that in the worst way, and it does feel like we're still sort of waiting to know how much. Like for the most part, tonight's game, like when you're down 4 starters and one of them is Joel Embiid, you're probably gonna suck. It was disappointing in part because it didn't seem like it was going to be obvious that the Nets were going to trap Tyrese. It didn't seem like they had a game plan for that. But it was really frustrating to me because of what they did defensively or what they didn't do defensively. At the very least, you need to be playing on your toes, really great defense, forcing turnovers, getting out, communicating, winning all the small little things. And they just did not. For most of the night, the Nets were out rebounding them, had a higher offensive rebounding rate, despite the fact that the Sixers couldn't like make a shot. It was real, like outside of offense, defense, rebounding, and hustle, they weren't really good in any of those.
No, they weren't. And I think you put it well there. Like, I didn't think Nick Nurse had a very good game. And frankly, I don't think he's had a very good season shorthanded. But when you're down all of those players, I realize there are limitations. There are going to be some bad nights. And I also agree with you that of the 2 areas, the defense was far more frustrating tonight. And look, some of this comes down to the fact that even though they got some decent play out of these guys earlier in the year, some of these guys have some real deficiencies on defense. Kelly Oubre is a complete space cadet on defense. He's a space cadet. Like he gets back cut.
I was talking to Kyle about this. He's outside of the fact that he was like 0 for 8 to start. His defense was real bad. Like his anticipation of screens, like you mentioned, the back cut, there was one in the first half that was real bad. He has been real bad defensively for a couple of weeks now, and that is very disconcerting. And quite frankly, that's why we gave him the benefit of the doubt and a lot of praise earlier on in the season, is because he was a lot more competent on that side of the court than we were expecting. I worry about Kelly quite a bit here. If he has to play a long time without Joel, like, is he going to try to do too much? Is he going to revert back to what he was? Because they frankly need him to. But whenever you rely on Kelly to create, like I said, if he's a creator and initiator, you're not getting many good looks out of that.
Hit the thumbs up button as well, as I see in the comments.
Appreciate
please.
that.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, play-by-play with JJ. It felt like Charlotte Hornets, Kelly Oubre tonight, right?
Yeah.
That just felt like nonsense ball tonight. Yep. And that's the thing. I'm obviously afraid of the Sixers, falling out of the play-in if Joel is not here. What do they do at the trade deadline? Can Joel come back for the playoffs? The one thing I don't want to watch, even if they suck, I don't want to watch Charlotte Hornets basketball. I don't want to watch
100%
completely uncompetitive garbage basketball, because that's what that was tonight.
And to be clear, Rich and I came up while the process was going on. We don't want to watch Charlotte Hornets garbage basketball. All right, I want to tell you about a few things here before we move on. First of all, Philly Sports Trips. We have a trip to Clearwater coming up in the middle of March. Go down Clearwater, hang with Phillies legend Charlie Manuel. Philly Sports Trips plans the whole experience out for you, from flights and hotels to game tickets and transportation. Spend St. Patrick's Day on a private yacht with catered dinner and drinks. Be on the lookout for more events throughout the year with Philly Sports Trips. I know we've got some game takeovers coming, all kinds of stuff. Go to allphly.com. Look for the events page. You can check that out. And again, the Phillies trip is March 13th through 18th. So don't wait to book. Head to allphly.com/events to learn more and book your trip. Also want to tell you about Rocket Money. Save a little money, go on a trip, however you got to get there. We all want to make sure that you get the most out of your money and that you're not wasting money on unnecessary subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place, and if you see something you don't want, you can cancel it with a tap, and you never have to get on the phone with customer service. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. It's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
So I completely agree with you, though. Like, the defense, I get it. Kelly Oubre, he doesn't get back on defense, man.
No.
Like he got beat down the floor 3 times in the first.
Their transition defense all night was bad. They were cross-matched the entire night. They were out of position because of that. Then they were giving up blow-bys on the perimeter, and they were in rotations all night, and it was just really, really bad.
Marcus Morris also doesn't get back on defense, and he botches switches like I've never seen somebody botch switches before. And look, I just overall, there's no reason for them to look that bad on defense against the Nets too. That's
the Nets who have sucked for a long time. And again, this wasn't a surprise. You knew you were out, Joel. You needed to come out with a locked-in effort on defense, not only to get stops, but to get out on break, because you have to generate offense somehow. They were bad. Like, they were bad in ways they need to be good.
And also, Nick Nurse, he tries these zone defenses. Sometimes I think watching him that he thinks he's still coaching the Toronto Raptors on defense, where he tries these kind of expansive zones where, okay, we're going to sometimes put 2 on the ball and we're going to play a 1-3-1. Dude, Chris Boucher is not on the back line anymore, blocking corner threes and running from side to side. So I think overall, like, they were going to lose this game probably regardless, but I just did not think they looked very organized, and Nick Nurse has to be better in that regard. Like, I don't know, man. Like, Doc had better games than this when they were shorthanded. I get it. They had Shake Milton. They had George Niang. Watching that was really frustrating to watch. And I think overall it's mostly the talent. And I think Daryl, if they are going to at least tread water here, he probably needs another ball handler. He probably needs another big guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little disappointed in shorthanded Nick Nurse. Like, I have not been blown away by him. It's a tough situation, but I'm watching them and I'm thinking, really, does Tyrese have to score 51 points and Tobias have to score 20 to win a game shorthanded?
I mean, a game like that where they're not defending, yeah. No, I think you're right. And I do wonder, like, and again, we're going to talk about the Joel stuff soon. It's hard to really say what they need until we know how long the big guy's out for. They do have a little bit of a cushion there once you start getting down to 7 and 8 with the Magic and the Heat. Like I wrote the other day, if the Sixers even just find a way to go like slightly below 500, the Heat would have to play like 60% ball just to pass the Sixers. So they have a little bit of a cushion. But to navigate that, I do think they need some of the dribbly type of players, just a couple, and maybe a bigger wing that can shoot a little bit too, and you trust decision-making wise.
By the way, it's not Doc Love. It's shorthanded.
No, Love. It's 12 seed Doc Love.
15 seed Doc Love.
Yeah.
No. Nick Nurse did a better job when all the actual players are playing, like, for sure. Okay, one other thing from the game. How weird was that Ben Simmons situation in the arena?
I mean, it was expected. It was a little stronger almost than I was expecting. Like, I feel like a couple, he's been back a couple times now. I feel like a couple were less, there was less volume to it, less intensity to it. It was a little bit weird, but quite frankly, he then came out and played pretty decent ball there in his first stint. I think he had like 5 points, 5 assists in the first stint. For someone who's been out for so long and who doesn't look the same physically, and I think that's key when you talk about Ben. I thought he handled it okay.
He didn't have 5 points. He took
5 rebounds. I meant 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Yeah. No, he's not shooting the ball.
He took 0 shots.
Yeah, no. I did not mean to say that. Yep. Right when you brought that up, I knew I misspoke.
Okay, fair enough.
We say a lot of words here, and every now and then they're just going to be wrong.
Totally, I misspeak all the time.
Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification or bell icon so you get notifications.
I just think it's so wild to watch him play. He's just getting cardio. He's just looking for that dribble handoff every single time. I was thinking what it would take for him to actually shoot the ball. If he got the ball on a short roll at the free throw line and the seas parted and he had a chance to go dunk the ball, I don't think he would do it. I think he would
that's pretty much what happened in that infamous Game 7. The seas parted and he was like, no, I'm okay.
Well,
Here you go, Matisse.
Yeah, at least he was moving a little bit better back then. But Yeah, it's rough. And I mean, look, the Sixers tried Bamba on him for a little while. By the way, the other thing that they need, I can't do any more Bamba minutes. Having Paul Reed as a drop big, first off, is like, they've been doing that for pretty much the entire year. I can't say I've paid, 100% attention to it, but over the last couple months, whenever I watch Paul, he's in a drop. That doesn't seem like the best use of his skill set. I realize they are a little bit small on the perimeter. I would like to see him switching a little bit more and find a way to utilize his skill set. But the other thing is, I just can't watch Bamba. Even in that game against the Jazz the other night, it's just like, how impressive does Tyrese have to be to drag that guy over the finish line?
Yeah, and that's really, like, it's going to be so much tougher and I think, look, the 51 was great. This is going to be a real tough stretch for Tyrese. He's going to have so much, especially if Tobias is out for more than a game or two, he's going to have so much attention thrown at him. And if everyone is a bad decision maker or a non-shooter around him, teams are just going to be so willing and so they're going to throw everything at Tyrese because they don't trust anyone behind him to beat them. It is maybe the worst construct of a team for him to try to carry by himself. You either need shooting or you need, 4-on-3 decision makers, or you need like a big man who's going to roll the rim and have some kind of gravity. He kind of has none of that to work with. It's going to be tough on him. And I don't think you should, if he comes out and struggles, like the 51 is great. If he comes out and struggles, I wouldn't hold it against him because this is not like showing whether or not he can be a playoff number 2. This is not showing whether he can be a playoff primary initiator. This is asking him to elevate the Charlotte. It's not real basketball.
The Charlotte Sixers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, again, Tyrese was not very good tonight. I think you could tell once he starts taking some of those bad twos, like where he's kind of stepping back to his left. Those shots stink. He needs to get those out of his shot diet. And he tried to draw a couple fouls too, and didn't get any whistle on a couple of those. You could just tell it wasn't his night. I'm not really too down on him for his performance, but man, they need a big man and another ball handler though. They just do.
Absolutely. And Nick before the game said that they were going to try to get their center minutes out of Paul Reed and Mo Bamba when they could. They need them to be better. What did Paul Reed end up playing on the night? He was at like 15 minutes pretty late into the game.
15 minutes minus 15, 2 points, 4 rebounds.
And he was bad. And Nick didn't want to go back to him.
The one shot he took was pretty funny. When I mean pretty funny, like a ridiculously bad shot, but it was pretty funny.
No, I mean, he had one where it was like a step back, 15-footer Dirk. Like, I was like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, that's not, I know they need offense, but that's not it. That ain't it.
Well, and dude, that's what summed up the entire game. Like, the Nets got whatever they wanted. They got open threes just whenever they wanted on the perimeter. And then on the other end, they executed their game plan to the point where Kelly Oubre and Paul Reed are shooting very tough twos.
Yep.
You're just never going to win.
Nope. All right, so you want to move on to the big fella?
Sure. Let's do it.
So obviously there was a report from Shams Charania earlier this afternoon that Joel Embiid has a displaced flap in the meniscus in his left knee. Shams then correctly went on to describe that, when you talk to surgeons, this is a tear. So they have that they're working on, and basically that they are trying to decide whether to play through it or to go through surgical rehab. Kyle spoke to an orthopedic surgeon, Christopher Selgrath. Go to allphly.com. Check that out. I believe it's right up at the top of the page. But basically, the orthopedic surgeon there, because there's when you start talking about surgeries on a meniscus, there are really 3 options. The non-surgical one, which is rehab, give it 6 weeks, see how it feels. And the guy Kyle spoke to basically said this is their preferred initial suggestion. Just now, sometimes teams or players don't want to do that because if you spend the 6 weeks, you can't really predict whether or not that rest will be enough.
For an average non-professional athlete, that's
the recommendation, right? But for a professional athlete, you can't predict whether or not it will recover. So a lot of times they will just opt for surgery just so they have a better chance when the 6 weeks are up that they are ready to go. So the 2 surgery methods, one of them is sort of like a repair, and that, according to this doctor, is only available on very infrequently, actually. A low percent of chances can actually be repaired. That would be a much longer recovery, like a 4 to 6 month recovery, but have a better long-term prognosis. But a lot of them can't be treated or repaired like that. So the neck surgery would basically be like a removal of that section of the meniscus. That tends to be like a 4 to 8 week recovery. But you're removing a part of the meniscus. That is not going to be as effective as a shock absorber down the line. So it sounds like, unless, it basically sounds like either he tries to play through it, rest and then play through it, or have that surgery where it's going to be like a 4 to 8 week. We're still waiting for confirmation exactly on that. Nick Nurse spoke before the game, didn't have any update whatsoever, wouldn't even really confirm that report. So we are still in a waiting pattern to find out for sure, but it sounds like it should happen here in the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll have some kind of decision.
And for people who thought that Joel could be out for the entire season, just reading, the doctor that Kyle talked to, and then I think Jeff Stotts on Twitter, who's another kind of a big NBA injury go-to follow, they made it sound like that's oftentimes in this case. Now, they don't have all the info, but a lot of times in this case, that's not really an option, the repair, the out for the season move. So it's a question of whether you want to go the rest route, which I think is preferable here, but like you said, you don't know if it's going to work.
Right. The concern with the rest is he rests for 4 weeks, comes back, maybe plays well for a week, but then starts experiencing pain and swelling. And again, the guy Kyle spoke to said that, like, you might be able to say there's a 70% chance that you won't have any flare-ups after the rest, but it's hard to predict beforehand if you're going to fall in the 30 or 70%. So it's a little bit unpredictable. So a lot of times athletes will elect to get the surgery, in part because that is a more predictable recovery period.
But like you said, the downside to that is you remove part of your meniscus, and that could be complications both down the line in his playing career, but also down the line in his life as well.
Yeah.
So
arthritis. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff that could be a complication from this. Now, another key aspect to this is he already had surgery on the meniscus in his left knee back in 2017.
Remember when he was dancing at the concert?
Yeah, it wasn't a great look.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great look.
It was the first not great look and a lot of not great looks for this organization over.
Well, especially because at that point they were still calling it just a bone bruise.
Yes.
But that is a complicating factor because that's just like if they remove 10% of that meniscus back then, remove another 10% here, that's not great. And that's not great for Joe, the basketball player, but that's also not great for Joe, the human being, for the rest of his life. So this is a tough decision for sure.
But it does not seem like, at least reading this info, that he's going to be out for the year. I think they're going to, at least right away, like they're going to try the rest route or the, how do you say that? The meniscectomy?
Yeah, that's a good attempt for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said that word, but it sounds right.
I've read it a bunch.
Yeah, too much.
A lot of YouTube doctor stuff going on.
Oh,
a lot of find your own facts going on right now. But unfortunately, that's when the Sixers, I mean, their injury designation at the beginning was so weird.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been weird for a month.
Lateral meniscus injury. Yeah. And that's on the heels, like you said, of like knee soreness. And
you can't just say knee soreness for 3 months or 3 weeks, 4 weeks and expect fans to then trust you. Like, okay, tell me why the knee is sore and swelling. They never did it. Well,
especially because you have somebody like D'Anthony Melton and it's like lumbar spine soreness, like it's as specific as it gets. And it's just, this has been completely
they seemed very hesitant to use the word tear throughout the last couple of days. I don't really know why. Like when you tell us it is a displaced flap, like we can Google that. We can talk to orthopedic surgeons. We can get the YouTube doctors, like you mentioned. And quite frankly, you say that, but like they're real doctors and they all sort of came to the same conclusion. So like we all have Google. Why don't you just, I don't know. It's weird.
You know what I've learned a lot on Google the last couple of days? Your meniscus tears a lot.
Yeah.
My meniscus, your meniscus, Joel's meniscus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe they shouldn't be so afraid of that designation.
Yeah.
Everybody's got torn meniscus. It's just, does it actually hurt?
Is it symptomatic?
Yeah. Those type of things. Oh, well.
Let's say ultimately whatever they opt, he comes back in 4 to 8 weeks. How do you think that impacts what they do in the next couple of days?
4 to 8 weeks. I mean, I don't think they're going to get the star level player, right? I mean, Levine, who I didn't think they were in on anyway, not a star level player. We just learned today. All right, take him off the board. He's out.
Yeah, he got threatened to be traded to Detroit, and he said, no. Put me under the knife. I'm done.
He did what Pat Bev did in tonight's game,
Yes.
but he did it for the entire season, basically.
To be clear, I'm not doubting the veracity of that injury. It's just a
No,
funny
he's just
little,
making a joke. Okay, so I think if they don't get Mikal or Laurie and Devon, like, come on, let's get some work done here.
Yeah,
tonight.
seriously. I hope right now is a productive time. Speaking of which, we actually have Kyle here joining us from the Wells Fargo Center, so we will add Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Just falling asleep over
We
here,
actually
fellas.
had a spirited conversation than I was expecting. Kyle at the arena is like, hey, man, look, if you're at 45 minutes and you have nothing else to talk about, don't wait around for me. But we've actually had a decent amount to talk about here tonight.
Well, I was just about to say, Rich, Devon owes you like 15 beers for subbing in on a Saturday night after
if you look at me, I will
the game we just bought.
So, he either owes us 15 beers or one Mikal Bridges. Either one, we'll take either one.
I think chat would probably prefer Mikal Bridges, so let's hold him to that, and we'll see where we end up.
I'd like a happy Rich, so I could go either way.
So I guess one of the benefits of Joel being out is that you are not held hostage in that room for an hour and a half. I mean, after the 70-point game, Kyle was in there for, I think, 90 minutes, which, again, I feel for him. I know that was why Devon and I that night had to have a 1 hour and 40-minute show.
You could have just hung up without him. He's not that important. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But we wanted to get what Joel said. So, Kyle, that sucked. Is there anything that particularly bothered you about that performance tonight?
Rich, you kind of hit on it on Twitter. The defense was just atrocious. And it was like any style of defense, half court versus transition, any style of defense within half court. So the man defense was bad. The zone defense was bad. When they hedged or blitzed, that was bad. I said it in the recap, which maybe 7 people total will read. But
hey, I think retweeted that, so we at least got 8. Now 2 of them
on
are
any
sitting
given
right here, but that's fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was including you guys in the count. So, the other 5 of you, that's I love you for that. But 3 out of 5 guys was like the most they had bought in on any given possession. It felt like you'd have Jaden Springer got to the right spot. House got to the right spot. And then you look up and 3 guys are like, huh? What's going on here? Where am I supposed to be? And even when they knew where they were supposed to be, then they were too slow to get there, or didn't get their hands up, or they force a miss and Mo Bamba is standing under the basket waiting for the rebound as if it's going to move to his hands magnetically. So, look, I think if you just look at the personnel, I think offensively we would have said coming into the game, they're going to struggle. Brooklyn's going to load up on Tyrese. They'll blitz them. They'll switch, and they have good switch defenders. Like, it's an overall pretty good defensive team. But you got to at least be bought in on defense. And so that was a huge disappointment for me, obviously within the perspective of they've got nobody available for this game. You can only be so mad, but I definitely think defense is where I would start.
So we were just about to hit this topic when you joined us because Joel is not there to take up your time. I guess having watched this team over the past week now too, maybe not what do you expect to happen over the next few days, but like how, if you're running the Sixers here, if you're Daryl Morey, how are you approaching this trade deadline?
It's a great question. There were times tonight where I found myself thinking, do they need to just like pack it in? And then I remembered, no, they have 4 out of their 5 starters out, including the guy who was the MVP front runner before he went down. So that's probably not rational. If you take a hold the fort type mentality, which I think is probably where they'll end up, they got to get some form of shot creation because they are not going to be able to sustain a good enough offense with Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris as like the only real threatening guys. And even in Tobias's case, like I give him credit for what he does as a self-creator. Guy can go out there, get you a pretty efficient 18 to 20 points. He's not someone who's going to create for others, right? Like he has to be ultra efficient. And even then it's like he's getting into valuable territory, but he's not lifting the team up. And Maxey actually said after the game tonight, they got to ask some questions about, do you guys need to take more threes? Like 3-point volume has been a problem, I'd say, most of the year, that Joel masks a little bit, and Joel contributes to because shoots so many mid-range shots. But Tyrese pointed out correctly, he goes, it's easier to generate threes when you have Joel on the floor, right? Like, he's commanding double teams, and these guys that are not threats to beat people off the dribble, a lot of them are pretty good, or at least decent standstill shooters. So they're going to have to find somebody that can consistently create penetration, draw in attention, that is not named Tyrese Maxey. Unfortunately, shot creation tends to be the most valuable thing to trade for, right? Like, that's multiple firsts. That's even if it's a guy on an expiring. Like, we're hearing things like, I love Tyus Jones, but we're hearing that the Wizards are still saying, we want a real first, or we're not trading them, which is probably bullshit. But like, yeah, exactly. So when a guy like that that's the bar for him, and you're looking at guys that are, like, no offense to Tyus Jones, but are like real deal shot creators, you're getting into like multiple picks, or a pick and a real player, like a pick and Melton, and then it's, diminishing returns at a certain point. So it's what I think they need, but it's also the hardest thing to get in the NBA.
You mentioned Tobias's lack of shot creation. I will say, though, he looks like prime LeBron compared to Kelly Oubre.
Not even close.
Kelly Oubre is like he was like Michael Vick when they had the passing cone on Madden to try and make it more fair, where like Manning and Brady had the entire field, which was ridiculous. But
Kelly has right in front of him.
His was like, it's like he doesn't see anybody. He's got blinders on, basically. Yeah. And I mean, they run that pitch back play, and it's like, oh, this is going up.
Yeah, so, and Derek and I were laughing about that during the game. Derek, I think, multiple possessions in a row was like, boy, it sure would be nice if he had a right hand that was usable, because Nick Claxton is just sitting back there waiting for the shot to go up and sending his shit into like the third row.
So I don't have too many questions on this game because it sucked. It was mostly a waste of time. And I apologize to every fan in here who watched it. Do you get any kind of a sense of D'Anthony Melton and how he's doing, and whether he could be back on any kind of short time frame?
So this was talked about after the game tonight. We got little mini updates on all the absent starters, sans Embiid, but we know the ones coming there. He's on the court. He's expected to be on the court tomorrow. And then it was what we've been getting the rest of the last couple of weeks. Like, don't know how close he is. So all the signs are there that he is progressing and is closer to a return. I actually did see D'Anthony in the locker room pregame, was moving around pretty well, and said something to the effect of, feeling better, moving better, all that. Nothing in intricate detail, but I mean, you would feel a little bit better if it was like, hey, he's playing 5-on-5. Hey, he's doing this. It's just a lot of vague. He's closer, but we don't know how close. And that's kind of how it's gone for, that was the Robert Covington experience for a while, and now he's ruled out for a while. But I do think he should be back potentially this week.
Gosh, I hope so.
Did they say anything about Batum?
Not really. I think it's, look, with a guy in his mid-30s dealing with a soft tissue thing, their message has been trying to be as conservative as they can be. Now, how conservative can you be when you only have like 4 normal rotation guys available to play? Like, at some point, they're probably going to have to say, you have to test it out a little bit. But sure. I think that's generally been the message on him for all the various little nicks and bruises he has had during the season. And I think it's basically the same right now.
I don't know if I have anything else.
I got one more thing. Well, first off, how about that Turk performance, Kyle?
Buddy, 5 consecutive made threes. I was hooting and hollering on press row. It was the most fun I had all night.
Last thing, because I know this is something you have brought up in your post-game recaps. I guess, like, you mentioned the price point on shot creation. Do you feel like they might, try and find a backup center of some point or of some way, just like, because that player probably is going to be available for, 1 second round pick, maybe 2 crappy ones, something like that?
Yeah, I do. And to your point, Rich, I think it's specifically because the price point will be low. Like that is just, it's not a heavily valued position in the NBA. Now, because everyone knows, hey, they got to buy time for Joel and hold down the fort, teams that have, like, I don't know what Chicago is going to do. For example, I know Andre Drummond comes up all the time in our chat on Twitter, etc. I would think with Levine now out for the year, I'm assuming they moved DeRozan. Caruso, they're probably going to hold on to unless somebody ponies up. But
which is again wild to me because he's only got 1 year left on his contract. Like, sell him now while he still has value, because next year at this time he'll have far less.
I thought the same thing when Toronto didn't trade OG Anunoby for, what was it, like 3 first-round picks from Memphis a year prior, and they ended up doing okay in the trade. But it's all, and he's a more highly coveted player than Caruso. That's no disrespect to Caruso. So I'm with you, Derek. So yeah, I just think looking at Chicago, they look like a candidate to trade a guy like that. But then you look at, they're just kind of a don't know what they're doing or don't know what their direction is type of team. Maybe Levine gives them clarity that, hey, pack it in for the year and see what we can get for the guys that have any kind of value. So yeah, I think they're at least going to kick the tires on bringing in another big. Whether they actually make a move, I don't know. That's everything is kind of up in the air. And like, look, we still don't know what the final word is on Joel, right? Like, maybe they go in and they say he's getting surgery, and that changes things. Like, I think they should, and will have the same approach regardless. But easy for me to say that on the outside and not having looked at whatever the MRI says and being in those meetings. So we'll see.
Well, even if you did look at the MRI, would you? That really help you? Can't imagine.
I mean, if I called someone to tell me what it means, yeah.
I was just making a joke at our lack of expertise in that area. I guess last question then. Give a chance to plug, give a recap of your article that you wrote for ALLPHLY.com and make a little bit of a sales pitch.
Oh, yeah. So if anybody missed it earlier today, thank you very much to my friend over at Jefferson for picking up the call today. But I talked with Dr. Christopher Selgrath. He's an orthopedic surgeon, specifically specializes in knees and hips. So knees in this example, very important. And he ran through, there's reporting out there from Shams at The Athletic about what the nature of Joel's injury is. And so Dr. Selgrath sat down and basically walked me through, what is this? What does it feel like? How does it impact the knee? And basically, what are all the possible paths from here? And as someone who tried to just do the basic Googling and looking through stuff, not quite WebMD, but at least some like credentialed journals, I was very confused, and he helped clear quite a bit up for me on, what Joel's experiencing. And frankly, it makes more sense to me now why they're taking some time to figure out, all right, what are we going to do here? Because I don't think, based on what Dr. Selgrath said, there is like a magic bullet, silver bullet. This is the clear-cut best case solution, because his recommendation for most patients in this instance is to do the rehab approach and see where you're at in 6 weeks. But he points out, and correctly, if you do that and Joel's still experiencing discomfort and this flares up again, then you probably have to do surgery, and that's going to knock you out right on the eve of the playoffs. And so it's a tricky situation right now.
All right, well, get on.
That's the article, basically.
Everything Sucks by Kyle Neubeck. Get on out of there and enjoy the rest of your night.
Get home safe tonight, fellas. Thank you, Rich, for filling in for Devon, who we hope is in the middle of his recruiting pitch right now.
Yep.
See you, man.
All right, we will finish off our conversation on Joel because we kind of got interrupted by Kyle there. Always have time for Kyle.
By the way, real quick, CJ Holmes, our old colleague, he is covering the Nets now. His tweet, I asked Ben Simmons about the pressure of playing in Philly, and Ben responds, this is what, my third time back? So it's different now. It's funny to me. I got grown men pissed off and yelling. I enjoy that. It's not that deep in sports, but it comes with it. So yeah. I enjoy it. There you have it.
Good for Ben. All right, I want to tell you, I've talked about Ben so much in my life. I think I'm just about done. Real quick, I want to tell you about Bagels & Co. Bagels & Co. has Brooklyn-style bagels made in Philly. They have huge bagels, biggest bagels in Philly with a large variety, usually 15 to 20 different types to choose from daily. And they have seasonal bagels as well. Bagels & Co. has the largest cream cheese variety, 30 different flavors of cream cheese and smears, including local flavors like an Eagles cream cheese and eventually a 76ers cream cheese as well. And I think this is key, Bagels & Co. are an affordable brand. You get a lot of food for cheap. In today's inflationary world, we think that's key. They've debated raising their prices before. You can tell when it's like the first time doing a read because I just stumble over a few things. Sure. Anyway, they've debated raising their prices, but they want it to be an everyday brand and not some high-end place you go to splurge on the weekends. They have a mom and pop feel, but cater to everyday individual with a lot of repeat customers. And they have really good coffee and not $7 a cup. Why go to a major chain and get a subpar product when you can come to them and get a more premium beverage at the same price point? For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
It's a great place. I go to the one on Frankfurt Ave in Fishtown.
Yeah, they don't have one near me. I'm going to have to stop by a couple times when I'm in the city.
We're not too far from it, our studios. Did you know also?
They brought some in the other day, and the bagels were legitimately good.
Yeah, I get their breakfast sandwiches. They're very good. Turk passed Ben Simmons in career three-pointers tonight.
In career or just with the Sixers? Career. Does it matter? Is that even different? Has Ben made a three?
From Dan Ollinger. Turk has 8 threes in 6 games. Ben has 5 threes in 325 career games. Remember those times Ben would make a 3 and it was like,
oh yeah. His last made 3 came with the Sixers. He has not made a single 3 with the Nets. Now, granted, he doesn't play all that often anymore. And I don't even mean that dismissively. He has real legitimate back issues. But yeah, he hasn't made a 3 since going 0 for 2. Remember a 3 a game? That's all Brett wanted. Tell his parents, tell his agent he wants a 3 a game.
And then he responded by shooting less 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
Didn't work out.
That was a hell of a game he played that night though against the Cavs without Embiid. I remember. Game
against Utah. Oh,
yeah.
It was real easy to see the potential that he had. It was just real frustrating to watch that potential never realized. Anyway, Embiid. I think we were about to talk about where you would go and how that would change your approach at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Kyle said is right. I think if you were gonna be able to swing for a star level player, you do that regardless, right? Somebody who you can re-sign into the future. Now, where the question comes for me, and Kyle also hinted at this, I don't know what type of role player you want when you're also probably acquiring them for a decent period where Joel is not here.
Yeah.
Does that change it? Do you go maybe a little more small guard shot creation instead of, somebody who can maybe stick on the floor in a playoff rotation with Joel there? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is exactly.
Yeah. I think maybe because I've been against sort of that point guard who you're not confident can play in the playoffs. And quite frankly, a lot of the centers you would get for cheap, you're not confident they can play in the playoffs either. But if you're talking about something like that, like an innings eater, a 4A type of baseball player, just to get you a couple more extra wins here over the next 4 to 6 weeks or however long it's going to be, I would be more open to that.
I would trade a 2nd round pick for that.
Yeah. If you're talking again, a real first for Tyus Jones, don't love that. But a second for him, a second for Drummond, something like that, sure. Just to give you a chance. It's not like it's going to change the team. You're still going to struggle to score. But it might save you 1 or 2 wins, which could end up keeping you in the 5 or 6 spot. That could end up being huge. So yeah, I'm open to that a little bit more. In terms of stars, I don't think it really changes too much on that because you still need someone who can fit alongside and be a Maxey, sort of be that third option who can step into a first or second option role depending on lineup changes and whatnot. That star doesn't necessarily look to be available right now. A lot of them that could have been available have been traded, or in DeRozan's case, not DeRozan, in Levine's case, had surgery. DeRozan's on my mind because a lot of people are debating him in the chat right now. That's fine. We'll probably get to that over the next couple of days. But I don't think it necessarily changes that approach too much.
Well, and I was listening to Bobby Marks talk about this the other day, so forgive me if you guys have already been over this. But Bobby Marks said, I mean, obviously they can trade the 3 first-round picks now, but they're going to get outbid if a Bridges or a Marketing, unless that player says, I need to go to Philly.
Yep.
and I'm going to be a pain in the ass if I don't go to Philly, which, hey, that could happen. Stars usually get their way, although, we saw it with Dame this year.
Not always.
Not always. And also, I'm not sure those guys are the caliber of star that can kind of demand what they want. But Bobby Marks said that in the summer, that 3 picks turns into 5.
Yep.
Because then you're allowed to trade, your pick at the draft. I
can't believe you're giving Bobby Marks credit for that when I've said that 10 times on this show.
I know.
Come on, man.
But it was on my mind. I was just looking it up. I'm sorry. It was on my mind. I was watching ESPN as the pregame show was on. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's my fault.
Anyway, if you have 5 picks though in the offseason, you could reasonably make a bid where if McHale or Laurie or somebody who actually does move the needle wants to play in Philly, that team might say, we'll take the Sixers 5 picks because we think they might stink in 5 years too. And that probably has more value than Oklahoma City.
Well, and not only that, but you have like one of those picks you have to trade is the best of like a bunch. And it was the Clippers pick is in there as well. No, one of them is the worst of a bunch. But you do have that Clippers pick in there as well, and they could stink in a couple of years too.
Totally. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
I know Harden is playing great, and that team looks really good this year. That pick is probably going to be.
Oh, yeah. Valuable. No, in 3 years, they're not still going to be good. 100%. It's just how quickly they can rebuild. So I think as long as you can, even if you can like have to trade 1 pick at the deadline now to get a player who you actually think can be a playoff player, like maybe I don't think it's going to be Caruso because it seems like their asking price is ridiculous, but one of the Bogdanovichis, something like that. Make an upgrade there. Keep 4 picks to trade in the summer. That might be where you sort of like, I sort of hate this phrase because it sounds weird, but like split the baby and have a chance to improve your team now and still have ammunition in the summer, something like that, unless just the absolute right fit comes along, but that right fit hasn't been rumored. And like you mentioned, there's teams that can outbid you, so it'll be tough. You
don't like the picture? You don't like the mental picture?
No, it's just the visual of that is not great.
It's a biblical phrase.
I understand that, but like I still, it comes up in my head. I don't like it. But I also couldn't think of an alternative to say, so I just went with it,
That's fair. Look, and the other thing I will say in terms of, kind of the short window here when Joel is going to be out, Daryl probably needs to make some moves. He probably needs to find some more shot creation, maybe a backup center. Like Nick Nurse, this is why you get paid.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris, this is why you earn your contract as well, which frankly he probably hasn't done for a lot of his Sixers career. Tyrese Maxey, earn your next contract. He already has earned that next contract, but really earn it over this time. And also Daryl Morey, figure it out. Like, find a way with 2nd-round picks to at least, like you said, like get 3 or 4 more wins out of this group just because of the personnel. Because it's like you said, I look at this right now and think like, okay, if Joel is out for 6 weeks to 2 months, then just stay in the top 6, right?
Yeah.
If he is healthy and he is okay in the playoffs, which again, I understand that's like the biggest if possible. But if you can get him back to like at least playing, early January level, that type of thing, they're going to be a really scary 6 seed. They're going to be a 2 seed that has a 6 seed next to their next to their name. So I guess that's my point. Like just hold on. Sure, you can get your butt kicked a couple times, but find a way to steal some wins and find an identity. Find just whatever you did tonight, do the complete opposite of that and give yourself a chance to win. And I don't think they're really doing that right now.
No, well, certainly not tonight. They didn't, but
that's all.
And they got tough stretch games coming up too.
Totally.
Yeah. But here's the
thing.
Dark.
Just win 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's like the inverse baseball.
Yeah.
Just get 1 game a series and they have a chance. So I can't believe we're here. Can't believe we're here, but I can't believe we're here. Any other stray thoughts here before we head out? Because this ended up being a hour-long show, and I wasn't sure we had an hour's worth of stuff to talk about.
No, I think that was impressive that we stretched it out that far. I'll take a bow. Thank you.
Appreciate all of you still on the stream for listening to this garbage. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you to you sickos for sticking with us, because I mean that in the nicest way possible.
No, I mean, look, we have to commiserate a little bit. Like, these could be some dark weeks ahead as there's so much uncertainty. Sort of a weird spot where you almost feel more confident if Embiid does get the surgery, because it sounds like that is more predictable of a recovery, but it's his knees, it's his cartilage. Like, that's a tough thing to ask. I get that. And I'm not even really rooting for it, because there is a human element to it, and he's got to then work on that knee, not only this year, but in future years. But it sounds like the come back, see if he's okay, try it out, and do all that right in the late March timeframe. It's going to be a little dicey. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty going forward. That's going to suck, but if it's going to suck, there's nobody else that I would want to do it with than you, Devon, Kyle, all of you wonderful people in the chat. Guess we can go through some of them. This is usually Kyle's thing, but he's not here. I want to shout out to the 2-minute warning. What's up, Al? I don't have the bell. That's a shame. I forgot. It's in the other day.
Oh, there is a super chat from Bernard.
Oh, we have a super chat.
Harden and the Clippers won the trade. Sent us a bunch of slow and injured guys. Yeah. Need Drummond or Nick Richards at center. Morey stinks.
All right. Not much of a question there, but he got his comments mentioned on air.
Well, I don't completely agree with all of that, Bernard. I get it a little bit in the moment. The Clippers are playing great. I don't know. I think Nico Batum has been really
been good. And he's been a real good fit.
And I guess the other thing I would say about that, it was a trade to make a trade, right? So I think the way to judge what the Sixers got on
if you go back and listen to like when we reacted to it, it's like, great. They got the picks. They got some matching salary. Those were, bullet point number 1 and bullet point number 2. Then all of a sudden, Batum came out and he was a perfect fit. Marcus Morris had that stretch where like for the first couple of weeks, he was shooting like 60% from 3. And I kind of was throwing cold water on Marcus. People yelled at me a lot for that. But he was, I think, better than a lot expected, but it was unsustainably good. And Covington's just injured.
Yeah. And I would say as far as Nick Richards and Drummond are concerned, sure. Yeah. I don't want to watch Bob play.
Sure.
Bob is not good.
No. And again, we thought there was a chance he could be cut at the end of preseason. So no expectations for
And
Obama.
Drummond is not great. He's not a lifesaver by any means, but he's like a competent backup center.
Or like if you can give me someone like Kelly Olynyk, who could play center now and then maybe play a little bit alongside Embiid, even better. All right. I think that's probably a good enough place here to cut off. Again, thank each and every one of you for coming and hanging out with us tonight, especially on a night like tonight where it's a little bit of a tough game to talk about. The news that we have to talk about is maybe important, but depressing. It is. If I'm going to be depressed, I want to be depressed in numbers and with friends. So appreciate you all. Shout outs to Moneymar, Bootzilla, 2-minute warning, You a Fraud, Eugene, 3-time, James, already said Moneymar, Mateus, Eric, Clizzy, let's see, Eugene, Kane, Grass, Liam, whole bunch of you. I think I said Eric already. I forget which ones I've already said. Honestly, it's a lot of people just arguing between themselves. Thank each and every one of you, including the ones who didn't chat. We would appreciate you if you come in and join the chat, though. In order to chat, you have to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So hit the subscribe button, hit the the bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live. We would appreciate you all stopping by, saying hello, and giving us your takes on the Sixers, because I have a feeling over the next couple of days, weeks, and months ahead, there will be a lot of takes to have, because it's scary times, man. Scary times. Anyway, thank you, Rich, for jumping on, and we'll talk to you all soon.
We all silly like the mayor.